You didn't really think that they were going to go star chasing, but, here they are. You got a 4-time All-Star in Trae Young falling into your lap right now. And it's a little bit of an odd move, but then again, hats off to the Wizards front office. They just went from, what was it? Jordan Poole. Oh no, they went from Bradley Beal to Jordan Poole to Chris Paul to,
they just keep flipping them.
Yeah, to the cat who they just traded
CJ McCollum.
To CJ McCollum, to Trae Young while stockpiling assets along the way. I mean, that's just like masterful work by the Wizards front office, and now they got a pretty big piece that they can either build around or try to flip again down the road.
Could that be the whole thing of it, the front office? And, I mean, they have a reputation of being damn good at what they do. And also, a lot the stars around the league know who those guys are. Can that be what's making it a little different than it was in the past?
I think it's just a little bit of a push to make the Wizards a little more competitive in the immediate term, right? Of course, Trae is hurt. I think he's been limited to like 10 games this season. But
is he actually hurt, or does he just hate Atlanta?
I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle, Jason. But this way, obviously we don't know when Trae is going to be on the court for the Wizards. He is due for a new contract, but I don't think there's any rush to negotiate that because, guys, the Wizards lottery pick is top 8 protected, so I don't think that this team is necessarily in any position to try to win this season. But when you're looking into next season, you could potentially have, Trae Young, right? You have that top 8 pick if things fall out correctly. You got Trey Johnson, 19, Bilal Coulibaly, 21, Tyshawn George, 22, Alex Sarr, 20. I mean, that's a pretty good young core, right? And that positions the Wizards to be competitive next season.
Yeah. Here's my thing, though, for the Wiz. Everything is about this long-term rebuild. This upcoming draft is supposed to be one of the best ever, right? I mean, there's a ton of major candidates, right?
Right.
Right now, the Wiz are the 4th worst team in the NBA, I believe, and they've got to be bottom 4 to keep a guarantee of the top 8 in the lottery, and that's how their pick is protected. Are they actually trying to win games now? Like, what needs to be the priority? It's cool to get Trae Young, but then you're not going to have a first-round pick, possibly. I guess they have the Thunder's pick, which is probably going to be like 28.
I mean, that's the thing, JP. I don't think the Wizards are in any rush to win this season. I think this is a next season move.
Because if he's hurt, they don't have to play him.
Because, like I said, Trae's hurt right now. There's no indication when he's coming back to the floor. And, this will probably be one of those situations where recovery takes a little longer than a lot of people think, right? But, here's what a lot of people have been talking about, right? Like, even if Young's on the court, depending on which Trae Young you're getting, it's kind of a built-in tank, right? It's an ethical tank. As talented as Young is offensively, great shooter, master distributor, led the league in assists just last season. Young's a defensive liability on a young team that, although the Wizards have been hot in recent games, overall the body of work on a young team that has struggled at that end of the court. He's a high-usage player, and, that can stunt some of these young guys' growth this year, right? And we all know Trae likes to jack him up. He can shoot you out of games. So I guess the vision is, if Trae's going to be on the court for, extended stretches this year, it's kind of a built-in ethical tank. Trae's going to get his numbers, right? But at what cost? At what efficiency, right? And the Wizards might find themselves losing games anyway. But overall, it's a short-term rental, right? Young could opt out after 2006 after 2026 if no contract is reached. If the fit is poor, they didn't give up much to get him. So, I think it's a win-win situation for Washington.
You make that sound kind of good. Built-in ethical.
I love that
take.
line. I'm actually tweeting it out right now. Do you think Trae would opt out and try to get free agency even with $50 million guaranteed on the table?
I mean, likely no, but maybe yes, right? It's one of those things, like, think about what the Wizards did with Jordan Poole, right? You bring in Jordan Poole, you let him get his shots up, you let him kind of, like, recoup some of that value, and then you flip him for something down the road, right? If Trae's in control of his own future, too. Yeah, $50 million is a lot to leave on the table, but, if the guy's supremely, confident in himself and thinks that, he can now go join a contender after repairing his reputation a little bit, I mean, I could totally see that happening too. That's
crazy, man. Very, very interesting stuff going on. Our friend CJ Holmes joining us right now on the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude makes the most reliable HVAC equipment in the DMV. You can read CJ's work in the New York Daily News, covering all things hoops in New York and across the association, covering the Nets. What do you think it's the dude Schlenk that is on the Wizards front office is the reason why Trae wanted to come here?
Yeah, that's probably a big part of it. I do know that front office, official in Washington. I believe that he was involved in Trae going 5th overall to the Hawks. And when a guy's going to a new situation, as much as they need a change of scenery, sometimes having some sense of familiarity, helps with that transition. So at least Trae is now coming to an organization where, he already has, some rapport with someone in the front office. And, I guess the hope is, that helps the transition and, he arrives somewhere where he actually knows someone.
I wanted to sneak two other things in, non-Trae Young related. You covered the whole league. I know you covered the Warriors for years. Steve Kerr came out and said, we are a fading dynasty. We know that. Everybody knows that. Is it weird for you to see where the Warriors... I mean, all dynasties come to an end. Do you feel like that's what's happening in Golden State?
Man, the Warriors were here in Brooklyn on the 29th of December, and, that boy 30 doesn't look like he's missing much of a beat at his advanced age. But, one thing I'll always give Steve credit for is keeping it real. And, Steve Kerr has never been shy to say what we're all thinking, right? He's very upfront in that way. And I'm not surprised to hear it because it's the dead truth, man. It started with Clay leaving for Dallas. These draft picks, these high draft picks that the Warriors had through the years. James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and now Brandon Podziemski. These guys were supposed to be the bridge that led the Warriors out of the Steph Curry twilight years into the future. But, these guys aren't, developing at the pace that the Warriors thought, right? And on top of all of that, the Warriors are one of those teams where they're never bad to have a lottery pick. So at least in recent years, they're not bad enough to, have one of those high lottery picks for a true rebuild. So it's been a little tough, but, the truth of the matter is, Steph's getting up there, Draymond's getting up there, and they have far, far, far less time ahead of them than they do behind them. And yeah, man, all good things come to an end, and the Warriors are even struggling right now. I think they're struggling to stay in the playoff picture. 500 team. They're one of those franchises that, of course, they're always one big move away. Maybe it's an Anthony Davis or something like that, but they're always one big move away from being back in the conversation. But that thing's widened down in Golden State, and everyone needs to accept that.
And other teams are getting better.
Yeah, totally.
On top of it.